Well, good morning. There was a group of friars who opened a florist shop to help with the payment of the reconstruction of their belfry that had been crumbling for some time. Because they figured, well, everybody likes to buy flowers, and so surely everybody in town will buy flowers from these dedicated men of God. And of course, you know what happened? Their business flourished. They did really well. The unfortunate part of this was that there was already a florist in town. And so this really, really upset him, because the better the friars did, the worse his business did. And so he went to the friars and he begged them, please, 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 close your shop. I've been here for a long time. And the friars said, no, 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 we're going to get our belfry done this way. This is going to be good for all people. And the man came to him again, the friars again, and said, please, 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 won't you close your shop? And they refused. So the florist hired Hugh McTaggart, sort of the biggest, meanest thug that they could find. And he goes to the friar's shop, and he beat up each of the friars. And he destroyed their flowers, and he trashed the shop, and said that if they didn't close, he would be back and do even worse, and they would be really, really sorry. So, of course, they were just terrified. And the friars closed the shop and hid in their rooms. And so this proves that Hugh and only Hugh can prevent florist friars. Come on, that's cute, that's cute. Look, I've been in Brazil, my material is very limited. So when Ernest Holmes, the founder of our church, was formulating this teaching, what he did was that what I like to say is he opened up the name of God so that people who had moved away from church, because what they believed up until that point was that God was this punishing guy in the sky who kept a book and kept track of all the wrongs they did, and things were probably not going to turn out very good for them no matter what anyway. And so people had rejected church. And what Ernest Holmes did is that he opened up the name of God and said, well, yes, it's God, but it's also spirit, it's truth, it's love, it's infinite intelligence, it's the first cause, it's the principal power and presence. He just made it so much bigger that people could come back in and say, okay, if it's not that and it's this, well, maybe I'm a little interested. Maybe I'm a little bit interested if it's not just this guy in the sky. So Ernest Holmes, I think above all else, was very, very practical in his teaching. He gave us a spiritual teaching that was very usable for our lives today, and certainly for the time that it was created in. That Ernest Holmes and all of the New Thought founders, I believe, remain extraordinarily relevant today as they ever were. And so how is this possible when they were writing, in Ernest Holmes' case, over 50 years ago or more, and 100 or more years ago, in the case of people like Mary Baker Eddy and Emma Curtis Hopkins, who we love so dearly here, easy. They were writing, they had a vision and a seeing and a spiritual understanding that was way ahead of its time. In fact, the world largely is still catching up to what they could see and what they were writing about. So another person who was writing back in the 1800s was Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. He was from Maine, a clockmaker, and most of his life was all before the Civil War. So think about that. All of what he understood happened before the Civil War. So here he is, a watchmaker, which at the time, before the Civil War, a watchmaker was on the cutting edge of science. Think about that. This was the most advanced technology there was. when people had a pocket watch. You know, that it was actually miraculous that what all these tiny little springs and widgets and gewgaws and things did. It was the cutting edge of science at the time. As an inventor, he himself had 4 patents. Now, he didn't really like religion or ministers, and he didn't have a lot of faith in medical treatment of the day. So remember, this was before the Civil War. And I like to remind people of the Steven Spielberg movie that we saw recently on Lincoln last year, the year before. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to the Reagan Library where they had a Lincoln exhibit. And one of the things that Steven Spielberg did was that he gifted them with the set from the field hospital used in the Civil War scenes. Now, I am here to tell you that in the field hospital, it showed a table with all the doctor's instruments from the Civil War. And this was fascinating. I couldn't wait to get to this part of the exhibit to see, like, what were the doctors doing? And I got there, and you know what they were? They were all different size saws. Because that's what happened in the Civil War. People got shot with buckshot, they got gangrene, and they sawed part of you off. It was like a horrifying thing. And so I thought, wow, no wonder people were open to spiritual healing. Right? No, really, think about it. Think about it. If you went and the doctor said, well, we're going to have to take it off at the hip, you know, or we're going to have to saw your arms off, you know, because you have gangrene and there's nothing. Wouldn't you be open to spiritual healing? If, you know, if Mary Baker Eddy came along and said, you know, by studying the Bible and science and health with key to scriptures, you could be healed. I would be so on board. Are you kidding? I would be giving her a lap dance. You know, give me that. You know, let me help you. I want to, you know, so no wonder it caught on, right? You know. So this guy, Phineas Quimby, he sort of established this tradition of the mind is the agent of the cure, right? So for him, the cure came by believing in the remedy. So just think about that today. If there's something that you do that's supposed to add to your health and your vitality and aliveness, do you have faith in that? See, like, I don't take a vitamin or supplement or do anything without looking at it first or holding it in my hand and saying, I know God's the only principal power and presence here, and I know God is working through these multivitamins from the good people in some laboratory in Missouri, you know, that put these together for my highest and greatest expression of life. And I know that all that comes out of this is for my highest and greatest good, and anything else just goes away. You know, so for me, that's my way of believing in the remedy. He said that matter, this physical thing, is a condensation of mind. In other words, your belief causes your mind to take form out here. Your belief causes your mind to take form out here. And so when he would work with people, what he would do is that he would hold an image of health for the patient, for the client. Because he believed that there is a difference between what you think with your conscious mind and what you deep down believe in your subconscious mind. Because you and I both know we can be thinking real positive things and even saying the right words out here, but if we don't really believe it down here, this is why Ernest Holmes teaches us there has to be both an agreement between the conscious and the subjective mind, or there will be no demonstration, or it will certainly not be the demonstration we're after. So we get to ask ourselves today, what is it that I believe deep down? Deep, deep down, because that's the thing that really matters. So this is very similar to our teaching in the Science of Mind brought to us by Ernest Holmes. And so here we are today, more than a whole century later. And so if we know all this, and there have been lots more advances in consciousness, why do we struggle and suffer the way that we do? See, this is what I think Ernest Holmes was keenly aware of and what he was addressing when he was formulating his work. Now, this is not all of his work, but part of his work was to address the suffering and struggle that he saw really good people had on an ongoing basis. Now, I understand, as we all do, that there's a lot going on in the world around us. But you know, if you look at it, if you watch, a lot of what's going on in the world around us that we surround ourselves with or are surrounded by does not actually support our highest and best good, the greater yet to be that exists in the divine mind for each and every one of us. See, because we teach in the Science of Mind that God has in mind for each and every one of us a great life, a fantastic life, a loving life, a healthy life, an abundant life, a creatively expressed life. But that's not what people experience necessarily. You know, the world around us does not actually support the greatest expression of life for each and every one of us. And we believe in the Science of Mind that that is our divine birthright. Our birthright, you as a spiritual being, as an emanation of God, came into this life to express health and wealth and creativity and joy and all of those things. So here's what I think has gotten in the way. That we have allowed the messages of the world to have influence over us. That we've allowed well-intentioned people, people we know and love, who love us back, to have some kind of influence over us. That's part of it. That's a piece. Now, nobody is on a mission to hurt or harm us. I don't believe that's so. But for many, from the time you were young, you have gotten messages in your life that have resulted in, now nobody raise your hands, okay, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, right? But have resulted in feeling unworthy or some false belief about yourself or life or about some false belief about success or the naturalness of sickness or the need to struggle or that you were somehow unworthy or damned if you do or damned if you don't, right? And so this has all been taken in and is now, I think, our worst enemy. Because this is your mind turned against you. Thinking something that doesn't support you in a great, wonderful, loving, abundant expression of life, a life that actually glorifies God, is your worst enemy. See, in the Science of Mind, we don't have a devil. When I came to the Science of Mind, I was so thrilled that there was no devil. Because I grew up and I was always, always worried about the devil. You know, it was that Flip Wilson thing. The devil made me do it. Remember Flip Wilson? You know, and you know, that was just, I had this enormous devil that was always, always, always making me do things. I don't care what it was. Eat all the cookies in the cookie jar, lose my homework, whatever it was, the devil made me do it. So in the Science of Mind, I was thrilled that there was no devil. That was really, really good news. But that meant it was within me. That was really bad news. That was really bad news because we teach that there's only one power, God, love, spirit, truth. However, the door that Ernest Holmes opened for us got big enough for us to come through, that one power, God, love, spirit, truth. But see, we have free will, and we can use our free will against ourselves by thinking things that do not serve us, that do not support us, that do not allow us to be the best that God intends for us to be. You and I are free to think incorrectly. We can think thoughts that are very untrue in the spiritual sense, if we choose to think those thoughts, to believe negatively about ourselves in life. And people say, well, why does God let us do that? You know, it's like because we're beings of free will and choice, and we are in this process where we get to choose to evolve. We come to a point where we're conscious enough to make better choices. And this is where I believe we are today. That we've all, you know, probably every person here has had viruses in their computer, right? You know, oh God, how did this happen, you know? And they wreak a lot of havoc, right? They get in there and they make a real mess of things, right? So these are like incorrect beliefs that we have about ourselves in life. Right? There are so many potential viruses in the computers of our minds. That can be hard to believe that someone who was well-intentioned early on, you know, a parent, a teacher, a lover, a friend, the newspaper, the news, the product sellers, say something or said something to you long ago, and it got in there like a virus, didn't appear for a long time, but got in there like a virus long ago, and it's limiting you and holding you back in your life today. It's the same thing like with books that we've read and shows that we've watched or movies or papers that we've read, magazines video games that we've played again and again and again. How could that have anything to do with why I'm alone or sick or broke or unhappy or angry all the time? You know, all I'm saying is a prolonged exposure to what does not add to your life, a prolonged exposure to what does not lift you up, heal you, love you, bring you deep peace, make you feel inspired and connected and allow you to be more of who you were divinely intended to be. Anything like that, a prolonged exposure to is like a virus in your mind. And viruses spread and do a lot of damage. So what I'll say, the data sphere, imprints our subconscious mind without our knowledge of it. TV, newspapers, radios, reading the news on the computer, it will stay on your hard drive maybe for the rest of your life if you don't do something about it. And you won't even know that it was installed when it was installed. Isn't that the craziest thing? Right? So I am sorry to say most of the programming that we are exposed to today, it seems to me, is largely negative. It's limiting, it's fearful, it's lack-based. It's repeated constantly on every channel. You know, radio, TV, newspaper, books, movies, negative people around us. Now, I'm here to tell you, I do not share all this to be Captain Bring Down in the Buzzkill, okay? That's not why I'm sharing this. I share it just, that's what Bart Simpson calls it, by the way. It's just the opposite, that God has endowed each and every one of us with this extraordinary gift of free will and choice. God gave Adam dominion over everything that was in the garden, right? Over every dominion he had power over, right? So what does that mean for us? Well, I would say a beginning step, certainly as far as the science of mind goes, is this idea of that there is a law of attraction, that we attract what we think about. Now, not just what you have a fleeting thought about, but what you ardently desire, what you really lust after, and by the same token also what you obsessively fear. You know, what we allow to consume our thoughts gets manifested in our life and in our world. Now, so Ernest Holmes says, don't be worried about that occasional bizarre stray thought that comes through, because that doesn't really have any weight. You know, that every once in a while, everybody has a weird little wingnut kind of a thought. And, but if you're not dwelling on that, it's not a problem. And people say to me all the time, well, I can't help what I think. I just have these thoughts. To which my response is, well, don't. Think something else. Well, how can I think something else? You know, it's like this. You ever been to Disney? Yeah. It's a small world after all. I know you'll be thinking of me tonight at midnight, won't you? When this is going through your head. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small, small world. Yep, you'll be thinking of me at midnight, at 1, at 2, for reminding you of that. But that is absolutely no difference than you're not enough and never will be. You are not enough and never will be. You are not enough and never will be. Everybody's better than you. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Yeah. It's, you can help what you think and change it. Do something different. Jump up and down. Slap yourself in the face with a pork chop a few times. I don't know, something to change what you're doing. That's why it's important to pray and to meditate and read the truth out loud. See, because that kind of thinking, I can't do anything about it, that's exactly why you were in the deep mushrooms you were in. That's why. Nothing is, and for me personally, nothing is worse than hanging out with people who have a negative view of pretty much everything in the world. Nothing sucks the joy and life out of a room faster than one of those people who are just negative about everything, and they do it all under the guise of, I'm just a realist here. You know, I'm just being a realist, you know? And it's like, well, you know, I'm sorry, but for somebody who's a realist, your life isn't very good. You know, and, you know, and please, do not try to save those people. Those people who are just on a negative bent through all of life, you cannot possibly save them. The more you try to pull them up, the more that they will pull you down. You know, look, I love my family. I really, really do. But I gave up years ago on trying to share what I believed was a better way with them. They were just not on board, not interested. They thanked me profusely for the years of sending them Science of Mind magazine, Creative Thought, The Daily Word, you name it. I sent them all. They knew it could only be coming from me, because who else would believe this kooky stuff? You know, and it just went in the trash. It just went in the trash. Parents, teachers, guidance counselors, friends, you know, they want you to be realistic because they would hate to see you get disappointed. That's what they say, don't they? I just hate to see you get your heart broken. I'd hate to see you be disappointed. See, subconsciously, they fear that you will rise up and leave them in your dust. You know, like last week's newspaper or something like that. Or if you rise up and are in love and happy and successful and healthy, they can't tell you their excuses why it's just not possible for them. See, these people tell themselves and everyone, what they're doing is that they're just trying to talk some sense into you. Yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to talk some sense into Mark. Have you heard what he talks about? He just talks about crazy things, like some kind of crazy person. Yes. You see, and when they ridicule your dreams and disparage your goals and tell you how foolish your business idea is, what they are essentially saying in the subtext is, please, please, please be mediocre with me. Your joy and your aliveness and your enthusiasm for life makes me so incredibly uncomfortable. Won't you please just deaden up a little bit so I could feel a little more alive? You know? No. How about that? You know? See, and when you refuse to lay down in the rut with them, you know, and you know the definition of a rut. A rut is just a grave with both ends kicked out. That's what a rut is. They will share these platitudes with you platitudes of the fearful with you, right? Well, you have to know people if you're really going to succeed. And it takes money to get anything done. Well, and the good ones are all taken, whatever that is. And you have to sell your soul and dance with the devil to be rich. You should just be grateful for the little bit you have. After all, you have a roof over your head, and I'm sure that the doctor is always, always, always right. You know, for me, I think these are just toxic people. You know, they're sort of like stray dogs who pee on your hopes and dreams and goals and aspirations. They have no regard for them at all. They just come up, take a sniff, and pee right there, right? You know, they fill you with fear and doubt and uncertainty. And I think the greatest thing you can do is to keep your distance until you're really, really strong. You know, and you can say, hey, don't pee there. You go outside and do that, but not here with me. Not on my hopes, not on my dreams. See, because your mind is the most important asset you have. God has given you dominion over the garden. Don't let someone else control it. So I've heard that, so here's something to think about. So I want you all to chew on this week. This will be really fun. And you can report, and you can report back to me that what I've heard is that your income will be the average of your 5 closest friends' income. And so I think about that and I think, wow, if that's true there, right, because there is a law of correspondence, we attract to us what we are, then it's probably also true that your health will be an average of the 5 closest people in your life. And your quality or quantity of creative expression will be like the 5 closest people in your life. And your loving relationships will be like the 5 closest, so start to look at that. That's really interesting. And you'll say, oh my God, really? Really? See, Science of Mind teaches us to stop looking at the outside factors, because the only place we really have to look is within. So here is the big getting free, healed factor today. It's never, ever, ever about the other person. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. No, really. It's not. It's not. And I know you have special circumstances and special situations and really, really difficult people. And I'm here to tell you, the big getting free, healed factor is it's never about the other people. Look, here's the way I see it. When I came to this, it was like one of the hardest revelations, that the only person always at the scene of the crime in my life was me. Always. Always. It was me. My fingerprints all over the place. My consciousness, my thinking at the time, all over all of it. Now, this I think, is actually good news, because that means that I can do something about it. So, Louise Hay, one of the things that first attracted me to her writing was I read in one of her books that true prosperity begins with feeling good about yourself. Now, I don't think that's just so for prosperity. I think that true health and true creative expression and true love, all of those things come out of you feeling good about you. Because if you don't feel good about you, how can the universe respond to you in a great way? See, I love going to kindergarten and teaching yoga. That has always been a ridiculous joy for me. And I'll tell you why. Because most 5-year-olds have extraordinarily good self-esteem. They do. They do. We'll be marching around the room to YMCA. I can't help. Little kids love it. They need to know their letters, right? So this is a great way to get them to do lots of yoga. It's my big finish. It's my big finish at the end of a yoga class with 5-year-olds. We march around the room to YMCA. Parents, I have no excuse. I'm sorry. But what I love is that I'll ask them, and they truly believe they can be and do and have anything. Who here can dance? Oh, I can dance. I'm an incredible dancer. I'm the best dancer in the world. I am the greatest dancer. I dance with the TV all the time. Okay, but who here can sing a song? Oh my God, I can sing. Me, pick me. I can sing. Who can tell a story? I can tell a story. I'm the best storyteller ever. Oh, please pick me. They're going to burst if you don't pick them. They're going to just explode with stories and dancing. And who can tell me a joke? Oh my God, I've got a joke. Knock, 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 knock. They have this incredible belief in themselves. And it's so pure and it's so absolutely real, because they really do know they can dance and they can sing and they can really tell a joke. That it hasn't been programmed out of them. I don't know if that happens by the end of high school or college or what. But here's the spiritual truth. You, as an expression of God, are absolutely worthy of the best there is. That's a spiritual truth. That's something that we should all really embrace. So when I say, who can sing? Everyone says, I can sing. I can sing. We think, if you can't make a couple $1 million a year at it, you really can't sing. That's not how to look at it. Kindergartners have the right view. I can sing, yes. I can dance. I can do jokes. I can tell stories. The more, what do I want to say? The more worthiness issues you have, the lower your self-esteem. The more you need to have this really arduous, heroic journey to validate yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got to constantly be showing that even though I'm a worm of the dust, I get through things. You're a child of God. You're an expression of the Most High God. You got another lousy lover, abusive spouse, dead-end job, horrific boss, terrible rash, I don't know. Everybody who knows you will say, what a string of bad luck you've had. You are such an inspiration, so noble. The way you suffer and sacrifice. You know what? There's only one problem with that. You know what it is? Your life, yes, it does. Your life is blotto, right? It's in the tube. You've been circling the drain from so long, you don't know which way is up. So please, for the love of God, hear me now. You are not serving God, the world, the poor, yourself, by your life not working. I believe you are here, excuse me, I believe that you're here to reveal the greatness of God within you. To let your light shine, to be the best you can be, to have an incredible life, to be of maximum service to God and humanity, however that looks for you. So here's something we could also start to say to ourselves. I am revealing the greatness of God within me. Say that. I am revealing the greatness of God within me. Now say it like you believe it. I am revealing the greatness of God within me. Now, you're thinking, but I don't really, but pretend you were somebody who did believe it, okay? If that's not you, pretend you are somebody who did believe. Pretend you are that 5-year-old in kindergarten who is so convinced that the greatness of God is within them, and they're just waiting for you to give them permission to express it, okay? Once more. I am revealing the greatness of God within me. So my invitation today is for you to be resolved right now with me. That, our life, your life, my life is good because our life is one with a life that is God. Let's pray. So we turn our attention inward for just a moment to recognize that we are surrounded and filled with God's Spirit. And in this awareness, I claim for each and every one of us that we are living the life divine, that with God all things are possible. And for each and every one of us, I know nothing is missing, nothing is lacking, nothing is broken. So I claim in this instant that we rise above the thinking of the world around us, that we are not held back by any past experience, that in this moment, I know for each and every one that yes, with God, all things are possible. So I claim for us great healing today in thought, in mind, in body, in our emotions, in our spirit. I claim that we are healed and whole just the way God made us to be. And we include our friends and family members in our prayer. We wrap our spiritual arms around them and say, God is right where they are. And I know that they are whole and perfect and complete, just the way God made them to be. We let our prayer be a blessing. We let it be a light and an energy of love in the world, so that wherever it can serve, that's where our prayer touches. And we know that all people are blessed and lifted by our prayer. We bless our church, all churches, synagogues and temples and mosques and ashrams, all paths to God. And I'm grateful for all of us gathered here together, because I know together that there is an increased faith where everybody gets raised up. And so with an open, gracious, full heart, I give thanks that this is so. I release this word, and so it is. Together we all say, Amen.